I've never liked birthdays. Not mine, anyway. Other people get excited for cake, attention, and those awkward Facebook posts from people they haven't spoken to in 5 years. Me? I usually just want the day to be over, but this year things were different. Mostly because my best friend Leo insisted they had to be. "You're turning 25, he said. "Quarter-life crisis milestone. We're doing something." Leo's that kind of guy, loud in all the right ways. Big personality, big laugh, big heart. He's been my best friend since we were 16, and he rescued me from a disastrous high school group project by doing the whole thing himself and still putting my name first. Ever since then, he's been my person, my chaos and my calm. Also, totally, absolutely, painfully straight. That little detail used to make my chest hurt when I was younger, when the crush was fresh and raw and stupid. But years pass, things settle. I moved on, mostly. We stayed close. I even joked about it sometimes, made light of what used to feel like a weight. So when he dragged me out to a rooftop bar in the city with a group of friends and a bucket of overpriced cocktails, I didn't expect the night to change anything. We drank. We laughed. He teased me about being old. I punched his arm. It was all familiar. Until the moment that wasn't. It was after midnight. The others had peeled off one by one, and we were left alone, sitting on the edge of a low brick wall overlooking the city, our feet dangling. My cheeks were sore from smiling. Leo leaned back on his hands, gazing out at the skyline. "You ever think about how weird it is?" he asked suddenly. I looked over. "How weird what is?" "This. Us. How long we've been friends." He glanced at me, eyes glassy from beer. "How nothing's ever gotten weird between us," I shrugged. "Why would it?" He was quiet for a second. "I don't know. I mean, don't you think it's kind of amazing? Most people don't have this?" I gave him a smile. "Yeah, I do." And then he did it. Out of nowhere, no warning, no pause. He leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't a joke kiss. Not a haha got you bro moment. It was real, gentle, hesitant, like he was testing something, and my whole brain short-circuited. When he pulled back, he didn't say anything. Just stared at me, like he was waiting for me to make sense of it for him. Like I was supposed to have the answer to whatever the hell just happened. I didn't. I just whispered, "Leo, what was that?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "I don't know, man. I just wanted to see." "See what?" "If I felt something." The air between us was suddenly too heavy to breathe. I wanted to ask 100 questions, but none of them made it past my lips. Because in that moment, all I could think was, this can't be happening. But it did. And it was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I got home and just sat in the dark. Still dressed, shoes on, door half closed behind me. My lips were tingling like the kiss had left a mark, even though it hadn't. Physically, anyway. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. The way his eyes didn't flinch after the kiss, like he was ready to see what would happen next. Except I hadn't done anything. I just froze like a coward. What was I supposed to do? Say thank you? Kiss him back? Ask if he hit his head? I spent the entire next day replaying it, dissecting every second. What did he mean? See if I felt something. Was he experimenting? Was he drunk? Was he serious? And worse, did it mean something? To him? By the time evening rolled around, I still hadn't heard from him. No text. No LOL sorry for kissing you message. Nothing. I told myself not to obsess. We're friends. We've always been friends. Maybe he regrets it. Maybe he didn't mean anything by it. But around 8 o'clock, my phone buzzed. "Leo, you busy?" That was it. I stared at the message. For so long, I could feel my phone heating in my hand. Then I typed back, "Me? No." A few minutes later, another buzz. "Leo, can I come over?" When I opened the door, he looked the same. Hoodie, backwards cap, sneakers he's worn to death. But something about his energy was different. Quieter, almost nervous. He stepped inside without waiting for me to say anything. I closed the door behind him, and for a minute we just stood in the hallway, neither of us moving. Then he turned to me. "About last night." "I've been trying not to overthink it," I blurted out. He gave me this sad half smile. "You failed, huh?" "Spectacularly." Leo sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. "I wasn't drunk, if that's what you were thinking." "I wasn't," I lied. I had definitely wondered. "I wasn't messing with you either." That one made my chest squeeze. "So what was it then?" He looked down at his shoes like they might offer him an escape. "I don't know. It just happened. And after it did, I didn't hate it." I blinked. "You didn't hate it?" "Yeah." He finally looked up. "I've never really thought of myself as whatever. Not gay, not bi. I don't know. But I think I've just been avoiding some things." The room got very still. "I'm not asking you to date me," he said quickly. "I'm not even sure what I want, but I had to know if you ever thought about it. About us." I should have said something. Anything. But my brain was a slow buffering wheel. So Leo laughed, awkwardly. "Shit. Maybe I shouldn't have come." He started to turn, but I reached out and grabbed his arm. "I have," I said. My voice was rough, unsteady. "I've thought about it. A lot." He stopped moving. Didn't turn around. But I saw his shoulders rise and fall with a breath he'd been holding. Then he asked, "So what do we do now?" I didn't know. But I was tired of pretending I didn't care. I stepped around him, took his face in my hands and kissed him. Not gently, not hesitantly, but like I'd been waiting years. The kiss wasn't long, but it was enough. Enough to know it wasn't one-sided. Enough to know the way he kissed me back wasn't how straight guys kiss their best friends. Not if they don't mean it. When we pulled apart, I half expected him to laugh it off, make a joke, do something to shake the tension out of the air. But Leo just looked at me like he'd been holding his breath for years and had finally exhaled. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't think you wanted me to." He gave a crooked smile. "I wasn't sure either, until you did." There wasn't a dramatic declaration. No movie scene music swelling in the background. Just two guys standing in the middle of a too-small apartment, suddenly unsure what to do with each other. We didn't sleep together. Not that night. We ended up on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, passing a half-warm beer back and forth and talking about things that felt like they'd been buried too long. Things I never thought I'd hear from him. "I always thought about us," he said, eyes on the ceiling, not in a full-on relationship way, not like I imagined us moving in together or whatever. Just flashes. Flashes? Yeah, like, what if we kissed? What if I held your hand? What if we woke up next to each other and it wasn't weird? I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My brain was still catching up with the fact that he was saying this out loud. "I told myself it was just curiosity," he went on, "that I was just used to being around you, but it never went away. Even when I dated girls, even when you were with that guy last year." My breath caught. "You knew about him?" He nodded. "Yeah, I pretended I didn't, but I saw the way you looked at him, and I hated it." "Why?" "Because it wasn't me. That did it." I turned toward him, and for a second, we just stared. I think we both knew that if either of us moved even a little, something else would happen. Something bigger. But he stood up. "I should crash," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, sure." He paused by the hallway, turned, then asked, "Your couch still squeaks like hell when you sit on the left side?" I raised an eyebrow. "You'd know that if you ever stayed the night." He gave a little smile, but he didn't go to the couch. He went to my bedroom. The next morning, we didn't talk about it. Not because we were avoiding it, But because it felt like it didn't need to be explained. He was still Leo, and I was still me. The world hadn't ended. He didn't panic and leave in the middle of the night. We just woke up, tired and tangled in the same bed, and for the first time in years, I felt calm. He brushed his teeth using my spare toothbrush, made coffee like he'd done it 100 times. We didn't kiss, we didn't cuddle. But we also didn't act like strangers. As I sipped my mug, watching him lean against the counter in boxers and a faded t-shirt, I realized how dangerous this had become. Because I was already hoping he'd stay again. Leo didn't stay over the next night. He didn't even text. And I wasn't sure what the silence meant. Was he giving us space? Having a crisis? Regretting everything? I spent the whole day pretending not to refresh my messages every 10 minutes. Trying not to analyze our last interaction like it was a breakup post-mortem. Which, to be fair, it wasn't. We hadn't even defined anything. But it felt like something had changed. On day 2, he finally messaged me. "Leo, you free?" My heart kicked like an old engine. Me, yeah. 15 minutes later, he was at my door, holding a paper bag that smelled like curry and naan. Figured we could eat and not talk about anything heavy for once. He said, shrugging like it was no big deal. And for the most part, it wasn't. We ate on the couch, watched a movie, shared quiet little comments during the boring parts. It was normal. But the space between us was filled with something we weren't naming yet. Halfway through the film, Leo reached over and casually tossed one of my throw blankets over our legs, his thigh pressed against mine. And even though neither of us moved, I felt my chest tighten from the closeness. He didn't say anything, just kept watching like nothing had changed. By the time the credits rolled, I couldn't take it anymore. "You always do that with your friends?" I asked, not quite looking at him. "Do what?" "Cuddle under blankets, sleep in their beds, kiss them?" He paused. "No." "So what are we doing?" He rubbed his face, letting out a long breath. "I don't know, man. I'm still figuring it out." I didn't think I'd be this confused. That word, confused, felt like a crack forming in the surface. "Are you?" I asked quietly. "Confused?" He looked over at me. "About what I want?" "No." "Then what?" He hesitated. "What it means. What it changes. If I say this is something more than just curiosity, then I'm not just Leo anymore. I'm the guy who hooked up with his best friend, the guy who has to explain to people who I am now. That's what you're worried about? What people will think?" "No," he said quickly. "I mean, yeah, maybe a little, but it's more than that. I don't want to fuck this up. You're not some experiment to me. You never have been." Those words hit harder than I expected. We sat in silence for a bit. Then, softly, he added, "But I can't stop thinking about the other night. About what it felt like." I didn't know what to say, so I just said the truth. Me either. That night, he stayed again. Not like before. We didn't kiss, didn't even hold each other. But when I woke up at 3 a.m. to pee, I found his arm draped across my stomach and his breath steady against my shoulder. And I realized I was in trouble. Because I wanted this to mean something, even if he didn't know how to say it yet. It was a Saturday when things finally boiled over. Leo had been in and out of my apartment for 2 weeks, staying over some nights, texting me daily, calling when he was bored or anxious or just wanted to hear a familiar voice. But we weren't defining anything. We hadn't even kissed again. It was like we were stuck in this weird limbo. More than friends, but not boyfriends. Not even dating. Just circling each other like magnets that hadn't decided which side was facing. And then his ex showed up. Her name was Camille. I'd only met her once, briefly, when they were still together a year ago. Pretty, sharp, confident, the kind of girl that made you feel like you needed to fix your posture around her. I opened the door expecting to see Leo, but there she was instead, holding a coffee cup and a fake smile. "Hey," she said, "is Leo here?" I blinked. "What?" He said he was crashing here for the weekend. He left his charger at my place. Thought I'd drop it off. Before I could respond, Leo appeared behind me in the hallway, shirtless, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "Oh shit," he mumbled. "Hi," Camille said coolly, holding out the charger like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Thanks," he said, reaching for it. "You didn't have to." "I know," she cut in, her eyes flicking to me. "But I wanted to." The air was heavy with all the things none of us were saying. Leo's awkward stance, Camille's tight smile, me, standing there in pajama pants with no idea what the hell I was supposed to do. She turned to leave, but paused at the door. "You should be honest with him," she said, not looking at either of us. "He deserves that." And then she was gone. Leo closed the door slowly, turned to me. His mouth opened like he was about to say something, but I held up a hand. "No," I said. "Don't." He froze. "What?" "She thinks we're something, and I don't even know if we're something." Leo looked stricken. "I didn't tell her anything." "But you did not tell her either, did you?" He ran a hand through his hair, clearly panicking. "Look, I just haven't figured out how to talk about it yet. About us." "You mean you haven't figured out how to talk about me?" That shut him up. And for the first time in days, I let myself be honest. "I've been letting this slide because I care about you," I said. "Because I know it's confusing, and I didn't want to pressure you, but I can't keep doing this thing where we act like a couple behind closed doors and you pretend I'm just your buddy in front of everyone else." He stepped forward. "That's not what I'm doing." "Then what are you doing, Leo?" He looked like I just smacked him. "I'm scared," he said, voice cracking. "Is that what you want to hear?" "I don't know what I'm doing. I've never felt like this about a guy before. I've never wanted something like this. And now it's happening. And I'm terrified of losing you and messing everything up." My chest ached. "And say that. Say something. Because this," I gestured between us, "whatever it is, it's real for me." He swallowed hard, then did something I didn't expect. He stepped close, took my face in his hands. "I don't know what the rules are," he whispered. "But I know I want to be with you. And I know I don't want to keep pretending you're just my friend." Then he kissed me. Not confused, not hesitant, just real. And this time, when we pulled apart, there was no space left between us. After that kiss, things shifted. We didn't label it, not officially. But we weren't just friends anymore, and we both knew it. Leo still flinched a little when I called it a thing, but he didn't pull away either. In fact, he stayed over nearly every night that week. The routine started to feel dangerously comfortable. He'd show up after work, drop his bag, kiss me like it was the most natural thing in the world, and steal my hoodies. We made dinner together. We watched terrible reality TV. He'd fall asleep on the couch with his head against my shoulder, and I'd pretend not to stare, but there was still a line, one he hadn't fully crossed. He didn't tell anyone. Not his parents, not our mutual friends, and definitely not his old crew from high school, the ones who still made gay jokes like it was 2005 and they were auditioning for a reboot of Jackass. I told myself it didn't matter, that this was his process, that coming out, or whatever this was, didn't have to happen on my schedule, but the lie was getting harder to hold. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. We were at a small bar downtown with a couple of his coworkers. Nothing big, just beers and darts. Leo sat close enough to me that our legs touched under the table, but far enough that no one could tell. Then one of the guys, Nick I think, leaned over and said, "You still seeing that girl from the gym?" Leo laughed and said, "Nah, that was a while ago." "What about now? You single?" And without missing a beat, Leo said, "Yeah," just like that. Like I didn't exist. I didn't say anything, didn't make a scene, just smiled like it didn't sting. But on the Uber ride home, I stared out the window, jaw tight. Leo must have felt the shift. He reached over and touched my hand like he always did when he thought I needed grounding. "Hey," he said quietly, "you okay?" I shook my head. "Nope," he frowned. "Talk to me." I turned to him, finally meeting his eyes. "You said you wanted this, but then you tell your coworkers you're single?" His face twisted. I didn't know how to say it, okay? I wasn't gonna come out to Nick from accounting over wings and cheap beer. "I'm not asking you to rent a billboard, Leo. I'm just asking you not to erase me." That shut him up. The rest of the ride was silent. Back at my apartment, He sat on the edge of my bed while I changed into sweats, like he wasn't sure if he was staying or not. I could feel the hesitation radiating off him. "I'm not trying to hide you," he finally said. "I'm trying to figure out how to be this version of me in a world that only knows another version." "That's fair," I said, "but I can't be the guy you hide in a room you only come into when no one's looking." His shoulders slumped. "I'm trying," he said. "I really am." I sat beside him. "I know, but I need to know if you're ever going to be ready, or if I'm just a phase you're going to grow out of once it gets too real." He looked over at me, eyes glossy. "You're not a phase." He leaned in, forehead resting against mine. "I'm not there yet," he whispered, "but I want to be." That was the first time he said "want" out loud. Not confused or curious, not trying or maybe. He wanted me. That was something. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. For now. It took another month, a month of in-betweens. Nights where he stayed over, and mornings where he left early, avoiding being seen by my neighbors. Texts that said, "I miss you," but not, "I love you." And days where we laughed like we always had, until one of us slipped and the other pulled back. But Leo was changing. Slowly, yes, but it was happening. He stopped correcting people when they assumed he was with someone. He started saying "we" in stories. Little things, quiet things. And then, one night, he did something loud. It was at a housewarming party for his coworker Jenna. I almost didn't go, thinking it'd just be another evening of pretending to be his roommate or close friend. But he insisted, so I went. The place was packed, music loud, the air thick with perfume and sweat and alcohol. I hung near the kitchen with a drink, watching him float from person to person, charming the room like he always did. Then Jenna came over and nudged me. "You're Leo's friend, right? The one he's always talking about?" I nodded, careful. "Yeah," she grinned. "I like you. He's different when you're around." Before I could respond, Leo walked over, arm sliding around my waist, casual and confident. "He better like you," he said, then looked at Jenna. "He's my boyfriend." Just like that. No stutter, no hesitation, like it was the most natural thing in the world. My heart stopped, then started again, louder. Jenna's eyes lit up. "Oh, I didn't know. That's adorable." Leo just smiled and looked at me, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw zero fear in his eyes. Just peace. Later that night, back at my place, I stood in the kitchen pouring water while Leo leaned against the counter, watching me. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Just trying to figure out if I imagined that." "You didn't." I set the glass down. "What changed?" He stepped forward, wrapping his arms around my waist. "You did," he said. "You made it feel real, safe, worth the risk." I laughed softly. "I thought I was losing you for a minute there." "You almost did," he admitted, "but I would have lost myself too." We stood there, just holding each other. No more pretending, no more second guessing, just two guys who finally stopped running from what they wanted. He kissed me then, long and certain. And when we fell asleep that night, it was in a bed that didn't feel secret anymore. We never moved in together. At least, not right away. People always think that's what comes next. Confession, kiss, happily ever after under the same roof. But real life's messier, slower, and honestly, better that way. Leo kept his place across town, said he liked the space, the routine, the feeling of coming home to me, not just with me. I got it. I wasn't in a rush, either. After months of walking on eggshells, what we had now felt solid. No need to sprint toward the finish line when the middle was this good. It was the small things that stayed with me, like the way he started calling on his lunch breaks, just to hear my voice. Or how he'd leave little notes in my jacket pockets, dumb stuff like, "Don't forget you're hot," or "I ate the last granola bar, sue me." Once I found one that just said, "I love how you talk in your sleep." I didn't even know I did that. He started introducing me as his boyfriend without flinching, even to the people who looked twice, even to his dad, who blinked, nodded, and said, "You could have told me sooner, kid. I like him." The first time he told me he loved me, we were doing laundry, not on a mountaintop, not in the middle of sex. Just standing there folding sheets when he looked up and said, "You know I love you, right?" I dropped a pillowcase and forgot how to breathe. "I do now," I said, heart thudding in my throat. That was it. No fireworks, no dramatic music, just truth. I said it back 2 minutes later, when we were laughing about something dumb he did with the fabric softener. Now, Sunday mornings are kind of our thing. He brings coffee, always with too much cream. We make pancakes, burn half of them, eat them anyway. He sits on the counter while I do dishes, reading headlines out loud and making up fake ones just to make me laugh. And when we go out, grocery store, dinner, wherever, he always does this thing where he reaches for my hand like it's second nature. It still catches me off guard sometimes, in the best way. Because for so long, I thought I had to let go of him to protect myself. But here he is, not perfect, not always easy, but mine.